What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go Battle League PvP content, and today we're talking about the RetroCup. Now, I do have some previous videos on the RetroCup, which are still very strong teams, but the meta has shifted slightly since the last time it was available. Since then, we've seen the rise of Noctowl, there's been an increase in the use of Medicham, there's been a fall in the use of certain Pokemon as well, but overall, a lot of those teams are still very strong, so check them out as well if you're looking for more team inspirations for this cup. Now, this team is actually very similar to a team I was just running in the single type cup in the last video. I just saw the team that was still built in my roster, and I was like, well, why don't I just try running it again, and made a slight tweak to make sure I had a little bit more coverage against the flyers like Noctowl if they did turn up. And it's working out pretty well, surprisingly well actually, considering the current state of the meta and some of the matchups I was running into. So, the RetroCup, for the uninitiated, is a limited meta. It's basically the Open Great League, except any typing that was not in the first generation of Pokemon games is banned. So any typing that was in red, blue, yellow, way back in the day, they're in. Anything since then is not. So the Dark typing introduced in Generation 2 is not in. The Steel typing introduced in Generation 2 is not in. Neither's Fairy typing, and anything that has those typings is banned, which has ups and downs, because Generation 1 was notoriously unbalanced, with Psychic being very, very powerful, Dragon being very, very powerful. There wasn't really anything to stand against them or resist those typings, which meant they could run absolutely rampant through the meta overall. Now, that's going to create a couple of ripple effects. So, Dragon has nothing that resists it, because there's no Steel, there's no Fairy. And that means that Dragon's very, very safe overall as a damage output, which means you're going to see a lot of Alterias, you're going to see a lot of Kingdras, and any other Pokemon that's running Dragon fast and charge move damage is very, very safe. And that's going to create a counter effect of there being the next best thing to deal with dragons, because if you're not resisting them, you might as well be doing super effective damage to them, which means there's going to be a lot of ice types. It means there's going to be things like Froslass, it means there's going to be Dewgong, might possibly even be Lapras. And other Pokemon of that similar vein are going to be strong just to counter the dragons that are going to be so common as well. On the wider scale, you're going to find that a lot of other Pokemon are just caught up in that power struggle between Dragon and Ice. So typings that struggle both with Dragon and Ice, like Grass in particular, might struggle quite heavily in this meta. And any typings that can do well, or any Pokemon that have good coverage against both Icing and Dragon Icing, it's not a cake, are going to do particularly well in this meta. So when I looked at my single type cup team that I'd already had built, which was Shadow Dragonair, Cofagrigus, and Meganium, I was like, this team's got potential. But we made a slight tweak. We took Meganium out because that ground and grass combo isn't as effective without the steels to threaten. It's not as neutral across the board against what we're going to see. So we swapped out for Cradily, which still has grass coverage, which is going to do reasonably well against some of those ice-water types that are combined. But also it's got rock damage output potential with Rock Slide and or Stone Edge, depending on what you want to run on it. So I think Cradily's got a nice, interesting niche role in this meta. It's not the strongest Pokemon out there for this, but I thought it was interesting and wanted to showcase it for you guys as well. Cofagrigus is still incredibly strong because without dark typings, remember all the Cofagrigus Umbreon matchups in the single type cup, Umbreon's not here, there's no dark types, which means Cofagrigus has much safer play overall because nothing's going to be completely walling it. Now, if you don't have these exact Pokemon or you want to tweak it, you can swap out Dragonair for Kingdra, Dragonite, Altaria. Any other dragon damage output Pokemon is going to do pretty well in that role. I just wanted to stick with Dragonair just because I had it built. It's a rank 1 Shadow. Why not have another chance to flex it after the last video? Cofagrigus you can swap out for Froslass. Other ghosts like Genger and Haunter can still do pretty well in here, but they are quite a bit squishier. If you don't like Cradily or you don't have one, you can put other rock types in, is what I would recommend. Rather than a different grass type, rock damage output is really nice just because there's so many ices. You could put Regirock in if you have it for the Great League, because that would do very well against Froslass, would do okay against Dewgong. You could even opt for Magcargo with if you want some fast move pressure, you could put Rock Throw on it rather than Incinerate as well. That's going to do pretty well for shutting down Froslass safe swaps, because let me tell you, Froslass safe swap is common in this meta, and it's not the easiest thing to deal with because Ice and Ghost is very, very good coverage in this meta overall. It's going to mess up the dragons, and Shadow Ball is going to annihilate pretty much anything else that wants to get in the ring with it. Also, a quick side shout out to Dunsparce in this meta, because Rollout got a slight buff to its damage output. It's still fantastic energy generation, and then the coverage of Draw Run and Rock Slide is absolutely fantastic. It's going to do good work against things like Froslass, Dewgong. It's going to do pretty well against everything else as well in the meta. It really just struggles with picks like Medicham just because of that super effective fast move damage pressure incoming, and even then it can put in a ton of work for you, so consider Dunsparce as well as a potential for this team. So without any further ado, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's talk matchups. Swampert lead, fantastic for Dragonair. The Dragon Breath's going to add up super fast, put a ton of pressure on, and you can just shield up if they build up to Earthquake. You're going to get a Body Slam off first and force a shield out of them anyway, so it's a strong position for your Dragonair, or any Dragon type in general that you've got on your lead. They say swap into Pelipper, which isn't the best matchup against Dragonair all the same, but we decided to throw the charge move, get a shield out of him, and then swap to Cofagrigus just because we can tank a little bit more damage. We're not particularly scared of the Swampert and the lineup in the back because both Dragonair and Cradily are going to have very strong play against it, so we're not too stressed about switch advantage, but we decided we might as well get the Cofagrigus in there, get ahead on some energy, and see what we can do once the Pelipper's cleaned up. Swampert's going to come back in, take a Shadow Ball to the face, get absolutely wrecked for it, and then they're deciding to commit their last shield into Altaria in the back. Now, we don't have our own Ice type to completely shut this thing down, but we can do a lot of work. So we throw the Shadow Ball, get a shield out of them, and now we're bringing in Cradily, and we are running Stone Edge on our Cradily. Personally, I'd probably recommend you run Rock Slide rather than Stone Edge overall, having ran Stone Edge for 2 sets, because look at that. That Stone Edge does monstrous damage. It's a fantastic move, yes, but we still need another charge move to KO Altaria, and if we had Rock Slide, it's slightly spammier. We can get to it faster, take them out, so it would have been a little bit of a stronger position overall, and there are a few matchups like that where you'd just rather be getting to more charge moves than one harder hitting rock type charge move. But other than that, we found down the Swampert. GG's, sorted. Okay, now this is a matchup that I think we end up struggling with because it's got a lot of bulk in it, because we've got Cresselia lead, right? And Cresselia, there's not many things generally that Cresselia can one-shot because it's very defense-weighted, but we're a squishy Shadow Dragon, so Moonblast is going to ruin our day, so we have to shield up, which is unfortunate. And we get shield baited with Grass Knot, which is even more disgusting, which means now they've still got some energy. They swap out into Zangoose, which I wasn't expecting. Zangoose is a spicy pick in this cup, but also it's got potential as a safe swap because Night Slash in close combat is not to be underestimated. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get farmed down here by a sliver of health, and I'm like, I hope this is a Night Slash. I hope this is a Night Slash. You know what? It's not. It's a close combat. Absolutely ruins Cradely's day, and that's going to set us back so hard in this game because we just needed some health left. Look at this now. They've also got Lickitung in the back. So yes, Zangoose is incredibly squishy, but Lickitung and Cresselia between them on this opponent's team have got absolutely incredible bulk. We swapped straight out into Cofagrigus against the Lickitung because we were expecting the Cresselia to come in, which was a misjudgment as well. We would have been much better staying in with Cradily against the Lickitung, at least putting some work in because they'd have been pressured to throw a charge move to take us out because we had just enough health to really get away with that. But this means that Lickitung can handle Cofagrigus, and they've still got some energy left over. Grass Knot's going to be neutral because of our part rock typing as well as grass, so they're just going to take us out. We're not going to bother shielding and let it go, and that's going to be a GG. And with the previous battles that we're running before, that's going to give us a 3 out of 5 set with this team, which pretty happy with. We're still at around the 2500 ELO rating point-ish, like high 24s, 2500-ish ELO range. So this team's still holding its own. There's still a lot of legend rank trainers around me, like previous legend rank trainers, obviously not current legend rank trainers because that is incredibly high on global leaderboards right now to be up there and be hitting that. But I am rambling, so on and into the next matchups, and we've got Defense Form Deoxys on the lead because it is no longer banned. It was banned in the single type cup, but now it's here to cause some mayhem. And Defense Deoxys, I think, is a little underrated in this meta because Rock Slide is going to do well against those ice types that are out there, as well as the counter damage, Psycho Boost just for some neutral hard-hitting damage as well against pretty much everything that's present here. So Defense Deoxys, don't sleep on it around there. They're going to bring in Dewgong as a safe swap, and we're going to meet them with Cradily because, yes, we're weak to the Icy Wind, we're weak to the Ice Shard, it will hit us pretty hard, but they're weak to the Grass Knot, they're weak to the Stone Edge, and we can hit them pretty hard. And we just want to spend Cradily here because our rock typing is weak to Deoxys's counter damage. So we just want to spend it here, use it up. We actually don't shield up a move and just get taken straight back out, but we've got a shield out of them, and we're not too particularly stressed with that situation. We decide to bring in Cofagrigus and start farming to get ahead on energy because, as we said, getting ahead on energy with Cofagrigus is, you can't fault it as a strategy because there's always somewhere for the energy to go. There's always something to threaten with it. We are being a little swap heavy and bouncing back and forth currently, but we're depending on Cofagrigus being our win condition. in this game with all that energy that it was building up. And it might be, it might not be. We'll see what's in the back. It's a Froslass. So being ahead on energy with Cofagrigus is key here because they don't want to Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to ruin their day. We're going to go ahead and throw Psychic here just in case we get the defense drop. It's the same energy cost. Doesn't matter. We're definitely expecting them to shield, which they do. And now we just have to make sure they don't catch on Dewgong. In fact, we probably just Shadow Claw them down and then just throw the move at the Dewgong instead, which we are going to do. That's fine. Dewgong comes in, eats a Shadow Ball, and that's going to be a GG. Bit of a bouncy game, bouncing back and forth between our Pokemon and swapping all over the place. But sometimes you've got to get messy to get those wins, and it's a GG for us. So what's coming up next? We've got our Dragonair lined up with Dunsparce. And like I was just saying, Dunsparce, good pick in this meta. They're going to say swap Jellicent. Jellicent is very difficult to deal with in general. In this cup, we're going to try and catch on Cradily because all of Dragonair's charge moves are resisted. The Body Slam's double, the Aqua Tail single resisted. They're not worth throwing against Jellicent's bulk. So we just get extra energy charged up before we swap out. They're going to start spamming Surfs at us, but they're going to struggle to fast move us down because Cradily has some surprising bulk to it. Before we throw the Grass Knot, we take them out. And now this Dunsparce is going to have to throw to KO us because, again, Rollout got a little buff to damage, but it's still not that good. And they don't want us to get another charge move off, which we were at the Stone Edge, which would have hit very hard there. So we're going to let Cradily go. Bring in Dragonair because we're loaded up on energy. We can take this move. Dunsparce has good coverage, but the moves aren't the hardest hitting in the game. So we've all got 2 shields apiece, and we're down to Froslass versus Cofagrigus, and they're ahead on energy by like 1 Powder Snow, maybe 1.5 Powder Snows. And that's kind of scary, right? Because that's the defining difference with Froslass, is if it's like that 1 turn ahead on energy in a lot of its matchups, it's going to win because it's just so scary with its damage and its coverage. But we're just going to fast move through. We can shield up twice and Shadow Claw them down because they're weak to Shadow Claw. We're not weak to Powder Snow, which we do. Now we can just start dumping energy into Dunsparce, force those shields out of them here, which we are going to be able to get. Even if they take us out here, the Dragonair, I think, is close to another charge move, so it should still be able to finish them off. But we take a draw run, no problem whatsoever. It's still going to take them out, so the opponent's going to surrender, and it's a GG. And that is our approach in quite a few matchups where we see a Froslass, we bring in Cofagrigus, we just commit 2 shields and Shadow Claw them all the way down. There are better Pokemon for doing that with than Cofagrigus, but it's just what we're running on this team, and sometimes it's the best option to handle a situation. Now, if you're feeling deja vu watching this matchup, there were 2 games in one set where we had a Deoxys lead that threw Psycho Boost, swapped out into their Dewgong, and you're going to guess what they've got in the back, right? They're also going to have a bloody Froslass, which is quite tough for this team to deal with. They get a shield out of us with the Deoxys or the Psycho Boost. We're going to come in with Cradily. Throw a Stone Edge at the Dewgong to make sure we actually take it out because it's harder than the Grass Knot, which it does. But they've got a shield advantage, and they're going to come in with the Froslass here rather than the Deoxys to farm down. They're going to recognise the potential for Froslass to put in serious work with a ton of energy advantage, which they're going to take here. They've got more than an Avalanche loaded here already. We recognise that Cofagrigus is the win condition, so we're bringing in Dragonair just to take an Avalanche and just spend some of that energy. And we're just going to bring in Cofagrigus, and we just have to farm them down. We have to hope this is an Avalanche because they have enough energy to get to 2 anyway, which it's not, it's a Shadow Ball. Takes us out. We just needed them to bait. There was no way around that situation with Froslass with that much energy, and it's just a GG, simple as. Alright, this matchup we got a very neutral, safe lead in Greedent on the lead, and they're going to say swap straight out to Jellicent. I guess they feel like they've got better coverage for Dragonair in the back, and that means I think it's going to be another Froslass, because Greedent does okay against Dragonair. It's a very neutral matchup, so to swap out so assuredly straight away makes me think that maybe they've got a hard answer in the back. But they bring in the Jellicent, so we're going to meet them with the Cradily once again, and this is a pretty comfortable matchup. They do shield, so we're going to choose to match that, and we know this is just a Surf now at this point, which we can survive. We're not particularly stressing about getting switch advantage for definite. We don't want to give up the second shield. If there is a Froslass back there, we need to be able to, you know, block up a move from that thing if it is out here. We're going to get a move off against the Greedent, which is very, very nice for us. It's going to hit pretty hard. Not going to take them out by any measure because Greedent's incredibly bulky. And we're just going to bring in Dragonair here, throw the Body Slam straight away, maybe get a shield out of them, probably not if there is the Froslass in the back that we are predicting, and there it is. There's the Froslass. So, they throw about 3 or 4 Powder Snows here. We're going to throw the Aqua Tail. Do we get the shield? We do. Great. So up to Cofagrigus, because now it doesn't matter what they do, we can shield up whatever move they throw, and we can get to the Shadow Ball before they get to a second move, take them out, and this game is done and dusted. So we get the Shadow Ball off. This will ruin Froslass's entire bloodline. It'll cease to exist. Fantastic. Boom, get out of there. Here's the Greedent. Yes, it's resisting the ghost damage. Yes, it's got crunch. It can't take us out. And even if it does, we've still got Dragonair that can just fast move them down anyway. But we actually CMP tie. We get the Psychic. Take them out. GG's. Job is a good un. If the Froslass would have opted to not shield the Aqua Tail, we still would have swapped into Cofagrigus because it would have done a big chunk of damage. We could have still committed the shield and Shadow Clawed them down entirely as well. So we were in a pretty safe situation there. Okay, last matchup, and this is a spicy one because we've got Dragon Tail Haxorus on the lead, which is a little bit different to running counter on it for sure, but it's still a very strong move. It's going to take out Dragonair with a sliver of health. We decide to let it go, bring in Cofagrigus and get that one Shadow Claw ahead worth of energy, just in case there is like a Froslass back there or something. We want that slight edge on energy rather than that slight edge on health on the Dragonair. Switch advantage isn't going to do us much good in that situation. But an Altaria comes in to meet us, Dragon Breathing down. So far we got 2 Pokemon, 2 dragons with dragon type damage output. We're going to choose to not shield, get this Shadow Ball off, hopefully do big damage, which we do, and put everything on Cradily with 2 shields. And there's a third bloody dragon. They've got Shadow Kingdra in the back, and we do not have a way of one-shotting this thing. We're going to have to go for double Grass Knot to actually take it out. Maybe with all the Bullet Seeds adding up, maybe Sonic takes them out. I think I might go for it here, but they're going to Octazooka us. They get the attack debuff, so we actually definitely have to go for double Grass Knot because 1 Stone Edge with 2 attack stage drop isn't going to take them out. And they'll be able to Dragon Breath us down here. We're going to go down with a shield still, and it's just going to be a GG because there's not much Cofagrigus can do here. It cannot clean up this game. And that just goes to show the power of the Dragon Breath damage output. If we'd have had Nice type, they might have been struggling a little bit, to be honest, to cope with us. But Kingdra is very strong, Altaria is very strong, and Haxorus is very strong. So maybe go for Triple Dragon if you're feeling spicy. Shout out to that trainer for running that. And you guys can see we're able to push back up above 2,500 and into veteran ranking once again. So this team can definitely hold its own against some of the big boys and hard meta teams out there. Plus, it doesn't need Froslass. It doesn't need Altaria. You can use any other dragon you want in its place. So let me know what you think of the team and if you've got any questions down below. And as always, I will catch you absolute legends next time.